What is the biggest threat to Arlington's natural resource areas? Surprisingly, it's not urban development or impacts of stormwater or soil erosion. According to the 2011 Arlington County Natural Resource Management Plan, invasive plants represent the greatest and most immediate threat to Arlington's remaining natural lands and native plant communities. My name is Sarah Archer, and I'm going to speak with you today about invasive plants, their impacts in Arlington County parks, and what you can do to get involved. First off, what does it mean for a species to be invasive? According to the President's Executive Order 13-112, there are two requirements for designating a particular species as invasive. First, the species is not naturally occurring in a particular environment. Second, the species has been shown to cause negative impacts to the economy, the environment, or human health. Invasive species can be animals, insects, or even pathogens. Today I'm going to be talking specifically about invasive plant species. I have been managing invasive plants in Arlington County parks for over 5 years, so I've seen firsthand some of the negative impacts they can have on our forests. One way invasive plants threaten our parks is by crowding out other species to create what is called a monoculture. Invasive plants like the non-native bush honeysuckle compete with our native species for sunlight, water, and available space. Studies have shown that the fruits of the exotic bush honeysuckles, while abundant and rich in carbohydrates, don't offer migrating birds the high-fat, nutrient-rich food sources they need for their long flights. Another impact of invasive plant species is a little easier to understand. Everyone knows how important trees are in our urban environment. They help clean the air, mitigate stormwater runoff, and provide habitat for wildlife. Invasive vine species like kudzu and wisteria pose a real threat to Arlington's tree canopy. These vines can strangle or grow right over both mature trees and young seedlings, doing damage to our existing forests and future forests. So how did they get introduced? Some species came over accidentally, and others were brought over on purpose. In the 1930s and 40s, the Civilian Conservation Corps was actually planting kudzu along hundreds of miles of highways in southern states. Today, the main way that these plants are introduced is through the ornamental landscaping industry. Unfortunately, many species that are included on the Virginia Department of Conservation and Recreation's invasive plant species list are still sold throughout the state of Virginia. So what is Arlington County doing about the problem of invasive plants? The Department of Parks and Recreation's invasive plant program started in 2003 in response to a growing citizen concern about the health of our forests and natural areas. In 2009, the program gained momentum when we were awarded an AmeriCorps grant for the creation of the 4 Mile Run Restoration Program. Over the next 3 years, we brought in teams of trained interns to work in our parks and provide outreach and education to citizens and staff. After the success of the AmeriCorps program, we continued to strengthen our efforts to control invasive plants in county parks. In 2012, we created a management strategy and secured funding for a 10-year plan for contracted removal of invasive plants. All right, here's the exciting part. How can you get involved? The most common way to help manage invasive plants is to participate in one of our volunteer events. It's a great way to enjoy the parks, meet new people, and help the environment. In these events, volunteers are actually cutting and pulling out invasive plant species. The main goal of this type of volunteer work is to slow the spread of invasive plants by removing any seed-producing plants. Volunteers can also remove vines from trees or provide maintenance for areas that have already been cleared of invasive plants. Another opportunity for folks that aren't as interested in the pulling and cutting is to get involved in monitoring or citizen science opportunities. Citizen science is the scientific research conducted in whole or in part by amateur or non-professional scientists. New technologies like smartphones and social media have enabled citizens to collect and share important scientific information. If you have a smartphone, you can download an app to get out in the parks to monitor the spread of invasive plants. Or you could even document site conditions by taking pictures of restored areas. A third way to get involved is to participate in planning stewardship projects. The Department of Parks and Recreation values opportunities to partner with citizens and community groups to explore new ways to manage parks. One of the goals of the Invasive Plant Program is to evaluate and select the most effective, environmentally friendly, and efficient ways to manage invasive plants. When determining the method for management of invasive plants, we evaluate the species, infestation level, and financial resources available. In the past, we've used primarily chemical and mechanical means to manage invasive plants, but there are other options available, such as biological and cultural controls. One biological management tool is controlled grazing of an area by goats or sheep. This method has been used successfully in DC and Maryland in sites that are heavily infested with invasive plants. An example of a cultural method to manage invasive plants is the use of fire, primarily in meadows and prescribed burns. These opportunities for management can be explored in certain situations where there is citizen interest in helping guide these discussions. Whether you like getting out in parks to pull plants, use your smartphone to take pictures, or engage community members in stewardship discussions, there are plenty of ways to get involved with this issue. I hope that you feel empowered to take action to protect Arlington's natural areas from the threat of invasive plants.